Hi, it's Theo and thank you for joining me. And today we have the new loner decks that came with the latest patch. These will be active until the next expansion, by which point there will be another 6 decks to choose from. Now, how are you eligible for these decks? First of all, you can get these decks if you are a new player and you complete the apprentice track, or if you have not logged in for 90 days, you can also get one of these decks, and you can do that multiple times. So basically every expansion you could, in theory, get a new free deck. And when you see these loner decks, that means you can play with all of these decks for a week, and at the end of the week you have to choose between one of them, and then you get all of those cards in that deck added to your collection. So that's a great way to get started or come back to the game. So that's why I'll go mostly over how good the decks are for your collection, how useful the legendaries are, but I'll also talk a little bit how good the decks itself are in case you want to play with them during that week. So let's get started with the very first deck. It's the Double Blood Unholy Death Knight. And this is probably the best deck out of these 6 in terms of strength if you want to just climb with it on a ladder. Now, I think there's some other Death Knight decks that are better though, just Pure Blood or Blood Starships. I think those are better, but it's a reasonable deck to play with. And let's see what legendaries this deck has. First of all, we got Exarch Maladar. Yeah, not very useful at the moment. It's really not needed. It's only played in this deck really, and yeah, I think I even cut it from my list when I was playing this. So not the best legendary to get. And then we have the Headless Horseman, which I say is a bit more useful, but it's also not really needed. Like, it's nice to have, right? But the meta is pretty fast, and then yeah, this is just one. It's a little bit slow, but it's not the worst one to have. But yeah, it only really gets played in this deck. The Marin is a free card, and then we have the Ursolk, again, same as the other legendaries. It's like, yeah, it's nice to have, but they're not really needed. And we also have the Ysera, which is another free card, so you always have that one anyway. And then we have Ziliax, I mean, still one of the best cards to have, so definitely a great addition to your collection. And the last card we have here is Ceaseless Expand, and yeah, Ceaseless is pretty good in slower decks still, even after the nerf, but yeah, like anything else than slower deck, probably not so good anymore. But yeah, Ceaseless, I won't mention it in the other decks, it's kind of pointless to talk more about it, but it's nice you get it with each deck. Then here we have the second deck, and it's the first Imbue deck. It's Imbue Druid, and yeah, it's okay to ladder with this. It's definitely the strongest Imbue deck, but yeah, that doesn't say a whole lot. And the legendaries we have in this deck are Hamul Roadholder. I mean, yeah, if you want to play Imbue Druid, you will have to use this card, obviously, and yeah, that's about it for this card. Not really a card you can use in other decks. We've got the Mista Vista. Yeah, I don't think it's even the best build for Imbue Druid. I would not play with this card in Imbue Druid. And yeah, it's also not really played in many other decks. There used to be some like OTK decks with this, but they're kind of gone. So yeah, not a very useful card. Now then we have Malorn, which is a pretty good card for Imbue decks, but yeah, Imbue decks just aren't that strong, but it's a nice card to have if you want to be playing those Imbue decks. Then the third deck we have here is Mage, and it's probably the second best class with Imbues, and yeah, there's actually a lot of different builds with Imbue Mage. You can play it with Ryla, this build, you can play it with Skyla, you can play it with Protoss, you can play it without any of those, so actually you're pretty flexible in choosing what build you want to be playing with Wisps. Having the Skyla build is probably the best at the moment, but Ryla isn't terrible. So we got the Ryla, and yeah, it doesn't really see that much play, right? It's really only in this deck it's currently seeing play, even though it's got a solid effect. But it's good to have, right? You can play a bunch of cheap spells with this and then get a full board that your opponent can't deal with. Also, we've got the Nightmare Lord Xavius, and that's one of the best legendaries from the latest set into Emerald Dream. It goes into pretty much any deck. You kind of never feel bad playing with it, but it's also not really overpowered. You know, it's like just a card so you can put in any deck and get a nice discover from it on turn 4. And then sometimes you can get very fun bonus effects, right? Like you can get like double battle cry with like Icena will get to, and that can be extremely powerful. Then also the next legendary I have is Puzzle Master Khadgar, and yeah, this card is very random, and it sometimes feels bad because it doesn't do anything immediately. But overall, yeah, getting 6 random spells off this can be pretty amazing because it does add up all those spells, and yeah, you can play it in pretty much any mage deck. It's just good in any of them, and it's definitely a great card to have if you want to be playing mage. Then we have Icena, and yeah, you pretty much have to play this card if you want to play Imbue Mage. This is the big payoff, and yeah, this is the way you win with Imbue Mage very often. Just 20 damage from hand is really, really strong. So very good card if you're looking for Imbue Mage. And then Malorn again, just yeah, solid card to have for Imbue decks. Could also get a second Icena of it, which is very, very nice. Then the third Imbue deck we have is the Imbue Paladin, and yeah, I can't recommend you to climb with this deck. It's not very good. It's really weak. It's just yeah, way too slow to get going, and then all you get is some dragons on the board. Which yeah, if you get a bunch of 10 drops later in the game, it's nice. But by then, most games are already over. So let's see what legendaries are here. So Nomelia, this is a free one. We've got Anachronos, another free one. So then we get to Malorn, which I've already discussed, and it's just solid, right? And then yeah, the one reason you want to pick this deck is Ursol, which is being played in the best deck at the moment, Drunk Paladin. And yeah, just really strong in that, combining with Shaladrasil. But yeah, this deck is not running Shaladrasil. You definitely want to be playing this card with Shaladrasil. That's really broken, although it's not too bad with Renewing Flames, but it's really broken with Shaladrasil. And yeah, this deck, it's just bad. So you basically just get Malorn and Ursol, and then Ceaseless again. So yeah, not too many actually legendaries compared to the other decks. And the fifth deck we have is the Terran Shaman. And yeah, this deck used to dominate until it got a couple of nerfs. But yeah, this deck has quite a few legendaries. I think it has the most. So let's go over them. First of all, we have the Carefree Cookie. Yeah, you got it in this deck, and that's about it. There's not really any other decks to play this in. But yeah, you want to be playing it in this deck. But yeah, Terran Shaman though, overall, it's not the strongest anymore. Yeah, Shaman just pretty weak at the moment. And yeah, I don't really see it getting much better either with the mini-set cards. Then the next one I have is Grifta, and this is quite a nice card to have. It's very versatile. It can go into a lot of decks, although lately I've been seeing it less, but yeah, you don't really feel bad playing this in any deck. It's just a lot of good options you get with this card, and it just never feels that bad to play. Then we have Bob, which is a free legendary, and then we have the Shadow Block, and yeah, this is one of those legendaries that can be really, really powerful depending on what other cards are in standard. Now, right now it gets played in the Nebula Shaman, Murmur Shaman, but that is not too strong, but it's very important for that deck, and it's also pretty important for this deck. So yeah, really strong card for somewhat slower Shaman decks. Just yeah, they're just not that good at the moment. And one of those cards that can buff is the Insignias. Yeah, I've not seen this card at all lately, but yeah, if this deck ever becomes viable again though, I think it will play it because it's just so good with that Shadow Block, right? You basically shuffle 30 damage into your deck, and that can kind of win a lot of games. Now, it can also win a lot of games is Kill Jaden, or at least games that go very long. It's the only deck with Kill Jaden, and it's a good card in some of these slower decks like the Death Knight, that could run out of value, but yeah, it's not getting played too much, but it can be a fun card to play with if you enjoy like the slower kind of playstyle in Hearthstone. Then the last legendary we'll have is Jim Raynor, and yeah, this obviously is needed for this kind of deck. It makes it all come together, and it's a really strong card. Just yeah, the starships got nerfed so much. Pretty much every card got nerfed. That yeah, the deck just isn't that great anymore. Well, yeah, this card is great, but yeah, it's just everything around it is nerfed kind of too much. You can also play it in the Terran Warrior, but again, that's like Terran Shaman, just not that great either. The nerfs hit it really hard. And then the last deck here is this Location Wallow Warlock deck, and yeah, it's not the greatest deck. They saw a little bit of play when Location Warlock was kind of broken, but it was just a worse version of Location Warlock. And now that Location Warlock is nerfed, yeah, there's no real good reason to play this. You probably just want to play either Location Warlock or Wallow Warlock, although, yeah, they're both not that great. Maybe Location Warlock is still playable, but Wallow Warlock is pretty terrible at the moment, and then, yeah, combining them just makes it kind of just worse for both things that you want to be doing. The legendaries you're getting, though, with this deck are Xavius, as we've discussed already with Mage, just a very nice legendary to have in your collection. Also, we got Summoner Dark Marrow. It's being played in Starship Warlock and Location Warlock, so it can be nice in those with proccing the Ultraless Cavern twice with it, or just being able to play the Death Knight card. There's not too many in this deck though, you just have Horizon's Edge, but it's way better in the Starship Warlock deck, where you get some important cards with the Summoner Dark Marrow. You also have the Wallow Wretched, and yeah, this is pretty much what this deck is, well, half of the deck is built around. And yeah, pretty important for a deck like this, but yeah, the Wallow decks are just absolutely awful, and I don't see it changing with the mini set, so yeah, not necessarily a great card to get. Then we've got Kerrigan, which, yeah, again, just like Terran Warrior with Raynor, it just got nerfed a lot. This card is still a very good card, but yeah, all the other cards around it just got nerfed so much that Yeah, this also got way worse, but yeah, still a nice card to have, but yeah, just doesn't see a lot of play anymore in the meta currently. So, which of these 6 decks should you pick? Well, first of all, we got 3 decks. Yeah, I don't think you want to pick at any point, which are Imbue Druid, Imbue Paladin, and the Wallow Warlock. They just, yeah, they don't have enough dust. They're not the greatest decks, and even if you want to play those decks, then it's just better to pick one of the other decks and just craft those cards. And the deck you could maybe pick is the Death Knight deck. The Blood and Holy deck. This is kind of my favorite of the decks here to play. It has some good legendaries, but yeah, not as many as the next 2 decks. So yeah, you could pick it if you want to play the Death Knight deck. It's fun to play, and I think it's the best deck of them. But yeah, I prefer to pick one of the next 2 decks, which are the Imbue Mage and the Terran Shaman. I think those 2 have the most legendaries and the most useful ones, so I would choose between one of them, and then it kind of depends on what you're looking for if you want to pick one or the other. Now, Shaman has some good Shaman cards. Just yeah, Shaman is pretty bad at the moment, and I'm not really seeing it get much better, but it has some useful cards with Kill Jaden and Grifta that you can play multiple decks, and with the Mage, you're getting Xavius and Malorn that you can also play in a bunch of decks, and then you get some really good Mage legendaries. So if you're interested in playing Mage, then that would be the pick. So those are the decks I would pick. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and I hope the video was helpful. And if it was, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and until next time.